Have you ever held back your words, bit your tongue, and swallowed your anger just to avoid a fight? We've all been there, telling ourselves it's better to stay quiet, that arguing just isn't worth it. But here's the painful truth. Every time you do this, you betray yourself. In today's world, we're conditioned to believe that silence is strength, that avoiding conflict is the epitome of maturity. But Friedrich Nietzsche saw through this lie. He knew that this so-called peace we cherish is really just a disguise for fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of rejection, and fear of standing up for ourselves. Nietzsche wasn't just talking about philosophy. He was talking about your life. Every time you avoid conflict, you surrender your power. Stick with me until the end of this video, and I'll show you how confronting conflict, not running from it, can be the key to unlocking your true freedom and strength. Don't miss out on the truth that could change everything you think you know about yourself. This intro grabs attention with a provocative question and promise of an insightful truth, while encouraging viewers to continue for a deeper, transformational understanding. Think about how many times you've stayed silent, even when you knew you should speak up. We've all been taught that avoiding confrontation makes us better people, that it's more mature to keep the peace, to remain calm and collected in the face of disrespect. But in reality, all you're doing is building a cage around yourself, one silence at a time. Each time you choose not to confront, you sacrifice a piece of your own integrity. Nietzsche saw this clearly and called it the slave morality. This morality, shaped by weakness and resentment, tells you that being kind means never causing trouble, that ignoring your own needs and desires is noble. But the truth is, this isn't virtue, it's submission. And living in submission doesn't make you noble, it makes you a prisoner to fear. As much as we try to convince ourselves that silence brings peace, what we don't realize is that this fear-driven submission only eats away at us from the inside, leaving us resentful and stuck in a cycle of passivity. This section dives into the cultural conditioning that associates peace with silence, exposing the hidden cost of avoiding conflict. It seamlessly connects to Nietzsche's concept of slave morality, setting the stage for the deeper exploration of how fear takes root in our lives. At first, it seems harmless. You swallow your frustration, let the little slights slide, tell yourself it's no big deal. But over time, something begins to shift inside you. That anger, that unmet need to assert yourself, starts to turn inward. It transforms into resentment. Resentment is the slow poison that grows in the absence of confrontation. It festers in the spaces where words should have been spoken and actions should have been taken. And the more you suppress it, the more it controls you. Nietzsche explains that resentment arises from a frustrated desire to act, to claim your space, to be true to yourself. But because you can't or won't confront the source of your frustration, you justify your inaction with moral superiority. You tell yourself that staying silent, that not reacting, makes you better, more virtuous. But this is all a lie. Underneath the calm exterior, there's an unacknowledged anger that builds, a frustration that you refuse to face. And it doesn't just go away. It seeps into your soul, slowly corrupting you. Resentment is a cycle. The more you avoid confrontation, the more resentment grows. And the more resentment you carry, the less courage you have to stand up for yourself. This cycle traps you in bitterness, and it's exactly what Nietzsche warns against. But there's a way out. Nietzsche's concept of the will to power is often misunderstood. It's not about dominating others or seeking control over them. The will to power is the fundamental force that drives us to assert our existence, to expand and grow beyond our limitations. It's the energy that pushes us to create, to overcome obstacles, and to live authentically. This is the antidote to the passive submission we've been conditioned to accept. Reclaiming the will to power means embracing the conflict that comes with asserting yourself in the world. It means stepping into the discomfort of confrontation not to destroy, but to affirm your own existence. When you begin to face conflict head-on, you tap into a deeper strength. You stop running from the friction of life and instead use it as a force to propel you forward. How do you begin to reclaim this will to power? It starts with recognizing the fear of conflict as a vice, not a virtue. It's about learning to say no, setting boundaries, and no longer allowing yourself to be defined by fear or submission. Nietzsche offers us a profound metaphor to explain how we can evolve and break free from our fears. The three metamorphoses of the spirit. The first stage is the camel, a spirit that submits to external pressures, carrying the weight of society's expectations, moral obligations, and passive acceptance. The camel does not question these burdens, but rather endures them with quiet resignation. It finds strength in suffering, believing that by enduring, it is virtuous. However, this strength is sterile. It is not the strength of creation, but of mere survival. At some point, however, the camel grows weary of carrying the weight of others' expectations. It desires freedom and self-assertion. This is when the spirit undergoes its second transformation, becoming the lion. The lion represents the spirit that has learned to say no. It refuses to accept the limitations imposed by society and rejects the passive morality that keeps it in submission. The lion does not seek destruction, but it fights for space, for freedom, for the right to exist authentically. It confronts the dragon of thou shalt, the external commands that have been ingrained in the soul. To conquer this dragon, the lion must face rejection, criticism, and the guilt of going against the grain. Finally, the lion evolves into the child. The child is the spirit that has shed its burdens and no longer reacts defensively to the world. Instead of living in response to external expectations, the child creates. The child creates its own values, its own life, and lives with authenticity and joy. It no longer sees conflict as a battleground, but as a space for creativity and self-expression. The child is free from the need to dominate or be dominated, living purely in its own truth. Nietzsche's concept of becoming who you are challenges us to reflect on how much of our lives are shaped by the expectations of others. We often live in a way that pleases those around us, parents, friends, partners, colleagues, suppressing our true desires and needs to avoid conflict, discomfort, or rejection. Each time we suppress our authentic self, we move further away from who we truly are. This process is gradual, and many people go their entire lives never questioning the roles they've been given, never confronting the discomfort of being true to themselves. However, Nietzsche warns that the cost of this submission is steep. Every time you avoid a conflict to maintain peace, a part of your identity dies. Without conflict, there is no self-knowledge. Without self-knowledge, there can be no authenticity. Without authenticity, you are left with an empty shell, living a life dictated by others rather than by your own truth. Becoming who you truly are requires the courage to face conflict head-on. It requires the willingness to say no to the roles imposed upon you, to confront the discomfort of challenging social expectations, and to stop living for others. It is in these moments of confrontation that we discover our true selves, asserting our power, and creating a life that is genuinely ours. The path to self-realization is not easy, but it is the only path to a life of integrity and fulfillment. Every time you choose silence in the face of injustice or conflict, you are not practicing virtue. You are complicit in your own oppression. Nietzsche saw clearly that silence, when it is born out of fear or a desire to avoid confrontation, is not a moral high ground. It is a choice that reinforces the very systems of control and disrespect that dominate our lives. By staying silent, you teach the world that you are willing to accept mistreatment, that you will tolerate violations of your boundaries without protest. Silence is a dangerous weapon because it feeds into the cycle of submission. Every time you stay silent, you allow someone to cross your boundaries, to disrespect you, and to reinforce the idea that it's acceptable to do so. This silence may seem like a temporary escape, a way to avoid discomfort, but in reality, it is a slow death for your will. The longer you remain silent, the more you invite others to take advantage of you. The more you suppress your truth, the more power you give to those who seek to control or dominate you. Nietzsche's message is clear. Silence in the face of injustice is not peace. It is complicity. The longer you stay silent, the stronger the forces of oppression grow. Your silence does not protect you. It exposes you. Every unspoken truth weakens you. And every ignored boundary makes it easier for someone else to invade your space. To live authentically, You must embrace the discomfort of confrontation. Only then can you affirm your existence, assert your boundaries, and live a life of integrity. The journey to reclaiming your power is not an easy one. It requires you to face uncomfortable truths, to embrace the conflict that you've spent a lifetime avoiding, and to break free from the moral narratives that have kept you submissive. Nietzsche's philosophy teaches us that true freedom comes not from avoiding confrontation, but from standing up for ourselves, asserting our will to power, setting boundaries, and refusing to be defined by fear. Every time you confront the world with courage, every time you refuse to remain silent in the face of injustice, you take a step toward becoming who you truly are. The metamorphosis from the camel to the lion, and eventually to the child, is the path to living authentically, creating your own values, and embracing your full potential. Remember, silence in the face of conflict does not bring peace. It leads to the slow erosion of your soul. By facing your fears and confronting the world, you can live a life of integrity and authenticity, not as a prisoner of submission, but as a creator of your own existence. So, the next time you feel the urge to stay silent, ask yourself, am I avoiding conflict out of wisdom, or am I simply afraid? The answer could change your life forever.